Dr. Babatunde, you have we on the sidelines. You were talking about what's the most important elements that you would like to point out in making sure that Indonesia is harnessing the most important out of its demographic dividend.
Yeah, I've talked about education.
Yeah.
And the quality of it. I've talked about health services, but I want to talk about the most important demographic within that framework. It is the young girl, adolescent girl, and that adolescent girl needs to be freed and her rights protected. So she goes to school, stays in school, and stays in school till she's at least 18. And within that frame, she also gets education.
Right.
And she also mixes with boys, and both of them are taught about gender equality so that we can reduce gender-based violence. And she's also exposed to the issues of reproductive health services and body skills knowledge so that if she requires, she can have services to prevent HIV, sexually transmitted infections, and teenage pregnancy.
Right. So this goes back again to education then,
It does. But services, health services that provides contraception is important because if you don't have fertility reduction, you are not going to achieve demographic dividend.
What are Indonesia's current biggest challenges at the moment in harnessing its demographic dividend?
I think it's about the investments. It's about the quality of it. It's about supervising.
Do you think we're putting enough investment at the moment? That would have been.
You know, for most developing countries, it can improve. So investments, quality of investments, and supervision to ensure that these investments are actually achieving what you expect it to achieve. Then, of course, there are issues around the adolescent girl I've talked about. You know, early and forced marriage has to stop. And many communities still practice this, and they will resist. And then, of course, when we talk about, you know, comprehensive sexuality education and all of that, people push back. But it's about to empower young people so that they are not exposed and their vulnerabilities are known to them. So they're empowered to make choices about their lives. And I think that those are the things that I expect will be the challenge.
And you had a brief opportunity. You had met with the Vice President Yusuf Kala, 3 ministers concerning this particular issue. What are your sense?
My sense is that, especially from the minister, from the state, from the secretary for the economy, we get it. Indonesia gets it, and Indonesia wants to go there. The Vice President also spoke, and the Minister of Health, all of them spoke, and the planning spoke about it. Now, of course, it is about now ensuring that you stay the course, about you make the investments, and that all of this goes. And I think that's what I think would happen. Now, of course, I also spoke to the Vice President about the issue of family planning, and the fact that Indonesia used to do extremely well family planning, but it's dropped off. Now, I'm assured that they're going to bounce back, and BKKBN would be reconstituted and given new leadership. And it is significant that in November I'm coming back to Jakarta or to Indonesia because the whole world is coming here to have the next international conference on family planning in Indonesia, in Bali. So you know, we are putting emphasis on this.
So would you say Indonesia is taking a lead in the conversation of family planning, not just in Indonesia, but also in the region?
Yes, in the region.
In the region?
Yes.
Okay. What would be other key topics that will be discussed during that program, perhaps besides family planning?
It will be about early girl child education, about early marriage. It will be about the issues of gender-based violence. It will be about issues around maternal mortality, which is still very high in Indonesia. You know, if you expose women to family planning, you cut maternal mortality by 1/3. And so those things are things that we have to work on and just reduce it.
What can Indonesia learn from its neighboring Southeast Asian nation in terms of?
I think the methodology by which this is done, South Korea is there. South Korea did
Would you say it's leading at the moment, South Korea?
At this point, I think I'm impressed by the progress of South Korea because it is in one generation that they've been able to all they've done.
Yeah.
I think it's a very impressive country to learn.
And but you also pointed out about Singapore.
Singapore, yes, of course. You were thinking of scale.
Yes, I'm thinking
I know that. So I mean, South Korea is a big country. Thailand is a big country, and all those have gone through this at the same time.
And last question from me, Dr. Babatunde. Indonesia is facing a more open and fluid economy by the end of the year of the Asian economic community. What would be perhaps the most immediate step that maybe the government can take in making sure that we're also we're welcoming, we're developing our population, but at the same time we're also open to the market in the region?
I think the new president is open, and I think it's a good, once you have institutions being strong like the democratic institutions here, things are going to happen, and we're going to open up. Of course, bureaucracy tends to affect, government, but I'm persuaded that Indonesia would simplify bureaucracy and make sure that they can attract foreign direct investments.
Okay. Dr. Babatunde, thank you so much for talking to us about this particularly important issue for Indonesia to actually focus on, and not just on attracting investors for the infrastructure, but also health and education, as it turns out.
People matter.
Yeah.
People must be the center of development.
Yes.
And the young girl is the most.
And that was Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin from the UNFPA talking to Berita Satu English on how Indonesia can harness from its demographic dividend. And in a moment, we will be also having a press conference on digital infrastructure, which will see Alexander Rusli, the President Director of Indosat of Indonesia, Eric Stevens, Chief Technology of Microsoft Singapore, and Navneet Vasis, the Partner and Managing Director of the Boston Consulting Group Indonesia. And it will be moderated by George Smith, the Associate Director, Public Engagement, Media Relations, World Economic Forum, Switzerland. Once again, Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
For speaking to us.